For generations, the US-Canada border was more than a line, it was a symbol of trust. Families lived on one side, worked on the other, goods and people flowed freely. In towns like Darby Line and Stansted, the border ran through buildings, uniting communities. The Haskell Free Library sat in both countries, a testament to shared values. This peaceful coexistence was a global example. Conflict seemed unthinkable, until it wasn't. The shift began not with soldiers but with economic policy. Decades of lowering barriers and signing trade deals like NAFTA were suddenly reversed. Words like ally gave way to competitor. The border, once invisible, became a wall of suspicion. Citizens on both sides were stunned. How could such a stable relationship unravel so fast? The world's friendliest border was now a fault line. Trust, built over centuries, was about to face its toughest test. The stage was set for a conflict no one saw coming. The invisible line was about to become very real. The partnership that defined a continent was on the brink, and the world was watching. The first blow wasn't military, it was economic. The US imposed sweeping tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, citing national security. For Canada, it was a shock and an insult. Decades of military and economic partnership were dismissed overnight. American leaders claimed they were protecting jobs, but Canadians saw betrayal. Integrated industries faced chaos. Supply chains that crossed the border daily were threatened. Orders were canceled, layoffs loomed, and entire communities braced for impact. The psychological blow was just as severe. Canada's identity as a trusted partner was under attack. Ottawa faced mounting pressure to respond. Accepting the tariffs was unthinkable. The handshake across the border had become a punch. The question was clear: how would Canada strike back? The conflict was no longer theoretical. The world's friendliest border was now a battleground. The economic war had begun. Trust was shattered. Retaliation was inevitable. Canada hit back hard. Ottawa announced tariffs on US goods targeting key political states: bourbon, orange juice, lawnmowers. The message: Canada wouldn't be bullied. A Buy Canadian movement swept the country. Supermarket shelves became a new front in the trade war. Then Canada threatened tolls on the Alaska Highway, the only land route to Alaska. This was a game changer, turning a trade dispute into a strategic crisis. Alaskans faced panic, their lifeline was at risk. The border was now a choke point, not a bridge. The stakes had never been higher. The conflict was no longer about goods, it was about leverage. The world watched as neighbors became rivals. The friendship was in freefall. The trade war hit ordinary people hardest. Prices for everyday goods soared: ketchup, cars, groceries. Job losses mounted on both sides, factories and mills went silent. Integrated supply chains became liabilities, not strengths. Border towns felt the strain, friendships frayed, cross-border trips dwindled, the sense of community eroded, replaced by suspicion. Even environmental cooperation stalled, joint projects were shelved. The conflict poisoned decades of progress. The human cost was measured in lost jobs, broken trust, and fading partnerships. The border was no longer a symbol of unity, it was a scar. The damage was deep and spreading. The question: could it ever heal? The crisis peaked when Canada closed routes to Alaska. The Alaska Highway was severed, supplies and families stranded. Alaska faced empty shelves, rationed fuel, and soaring prices. Canadian border towns suffered too, businesses collapsed overnight. The closure hurt both sides, proving there were no winners. The world was stunned. Could two allies really become adversaries? The image of a closed border was a warning. The scars of this conflict will last. The partnership that once defined North America was shaken to its core. The border may reopen, but trust is harder to rebuild. The frozen frontier became a symbol of lost unity. The world wonders: can the friendliest border ever be the same? Only time will tell.